humans, and welcome to the Madhouse. I'm Josh, and today I want to give you my June favourites video. Now, I'm sorry that I'm doing this one, but because I had planned to do something far more intensive with better graphics and a whole bunch of other shit planned, but my laptop is still not up and running, so you're having to go with something that has less intensive work that I can just do on my phone. As it is though, June, it turns out, has been a pretty good month, aside from getting back into YouTube and starting writing on a whole bunch of new ideas that have me pretty excited. I moved out of my old place and I'm just about to move into the new one. Sort of, the stuff. I'm going to be staying with my parents until uni starts. Still, I did assimilate, shall we say, a lot of interesting media over the last month, and I thought I should share it with you. Perhaps it's your type of thing. Let's start with films first. I went to the cinema twice to see Guardians of the Galaxy 2 and Wonder Woman. Now, I enjoyed them both, but I would have to say that Wonder Woman was a significantly better film. Guardians of the Galaxy 2, the soundtrack was great, although a lot more emotional, I would try to say, than the soundtrack to the first one. For example, when is it Cat Stevens' father and son played, I actually cried, which I don't really understand that much because my dad isn't dead, so I don't need to. But and also, I'm not gonna settle down, find a girl, because, well, you know, hella queer. I mean, I could, but it's unlikely. Still, it was very enjoyable, and while it didn't quite do while I didn't feel it did justice to the idea of a non-localized consciousness such as ego, it was certainly enjoyable. As for Wonder Woman though, well, maybe I went in there with overly high expectations, so they were met every single step of the way. Yes, I am the stereotypical little gay boy who loves Wonder Woman. Where to begin? Wonder Woman, when I was younger, I didn't really like it because I thought it was bordering on sexist. Just, oh, look at this, you have a beautiful woman who has magic accessories that make her powerful. And then I realised, hang on a minute, Batman is just there because of his accessories. She has stuff of her own anyway. And if I don't object to Batman, why should I object to hers when it's for the exact same reason? So after I put that aside, I fell in love with the character, and I thought the film did an excellent job of that. The way it managed to avoid falling into so many of the very easy sexist traps you could do when making a film about Wonder Woman was incredible, and I have to say I rather loved the villains. And it was interesting as well to see a superhero film set in the First World War rather than the Second, because, well, for once, she wasn't just beating the shit out of Nazis, which, don't get me wrong, I fully condone beating the shit out of Nazis. But we've seen it a lot of times in films, and otherwise it would have just been another Captain America. And the other two films that I very much enjoyed, I've watched more because I'm a really lazy person and I've only just gotten back home with my parents and I've not really adjusted yet. But they were The Birdcage, which I think everyone needs to watch. It's very, very funny. Robin Williams and Nathan Lane star as a gay couple whose son comes home, tells them that he's getting married to the daughter of a conservative American politician, and they have to pretend to be less gay in order to win him over, and it's just very enjoyable. The son's a bit of a dick. I love it. Nathan Lane and Robin Williams are just amazing. I love both of them, and it's such a shame that Williams died, of course, but Lane's still kicking, and that's fun. And then the other one, following in a similar gay drag queen kind of theme, To Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar, starring Wesley Snipes, Patrick Swayze, and John, is that Leguizamo? I don't know how to say that name, but that one. About three drag queens who go on a road trip from New York to Los Angeles and give a dusty old town a makeover, and it's just fun. Oh, it's so bitchy and odd in some points, and it's just fabulous, and Patrick Swayze is... As for television programs that I saw this month, there was some episodes of Star Trek which I deliberately sought out, the ones dealing more with artificial intelligence, because that's what I'm writing about, and I like to examine ways other writers have done this before to see if it can shape the way I write, and also so I can avoid making their mistakes. Because I don't just want to copy somebody else either, but taking inspiration, that's perfectly fine and, in many cases, expected. The other big one is of some controversy, and that is 13 Reasons Why. How to describe this one? A girl commits suicide and leaves notes in the form of tapes sent to people around this town explaining how they helped contribute to her killing herself. Speaking of 13 Reasons Why, I also really enjoyed this month's issue of Gay Times. I tend to pick it up every other month or so, just whenever there's something particularly interesting in here. And I picked this one up specifically because it was featuring Tommy Dorfman, who plays Ryan in the show. And not only is he not unattractive, he is ridiculously queer. Like, if you look on his Instagram, for example, he spends more of his time in high heels and dresses than out, and he's always putting twists on things, and I just like people who queer it up a little bit. It's interesting. And what's my favourite word at the moment? Oh yes, gender fuckery. Plus the stuff itself is quite interesting. There's an article about Paul O'Grady, who's coming to host a new version of Blind Date, which was, of course, previously hosted by his friend Cilla Black, who is no longer with us. But the new version of Blind Date is to include same-sex couples as well, which I think is just great. My other favourite book this month was The Long Earth by Terry Pratchett. I still hold that this one is probably the best in the series, but the rest are very enjoyable, and I'm currently on the third one. It's science fiction where all of a sudden a whole string of parallel Earths have opened up to humanity, and each Earth is slightly different from the last, except there's no people on it until those from our Earth spread out. And it's just a very interesting look at how this would change society and technology, and just how fragile life could be as well. It's quite eye-opening. I very much enjoyed it. And speaking of things that are eye-opening, I've enjoyed a few podcasts this month, but the one that I'm going to recommend now is Defining Marriage by Matt Baum. It is an audiobook of his book Defining Marriage, all about the struggle for marriage equality in the United States, which, while it doesn't directly affect me, is fascinating and has quite a long, complicated history. And as well as just being an audiobook, after each chapter has been read, there is an extra section in that episode where he talks with a special guest, who is usually his partner. And it's quite funny, sometimes sweet and sad, and it makes me angry at times, and it's just really good. His voice is excellent as well. And I suppose my final favourite of June would be Horizon Zero Dawn. I tried to play this before, but then Mass Effect Andromeda came out and it completely took my attention away. But now, this has got my full attention, and my goodness, it deserved it from the very start. It is magnificent, dystopian well, not quite dystopian, post-apocalyptic, that's the word. Post-apocalyptic dystopian fiction set 1,000 years into the future, with artificial intelligences hidden all over the place, and robot dinosaurs that make far more sense from an in-universe perspective. I can't really explain it right now because I've yet to get to that part. But it feels like a seamless extension of the world, and it's beautiful. The soundtrack is amazing. I was listening to it last night. It had me in tears, and I'm not a crier. I don't cry very often. The only game that's guaranteed to get a tear out of me every time is Mass Effect 3. So that's it. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you have, please give a thumbs up and share it, and subscribe if you haven't already, because my ego needs stroking. And if any of these recommendations interested you, please let me know. Tell me what caught your attention, because I might be able to give you some more personal recommendations based on these. And also, please return the favour. I'm always looking for new media recommendations, especially when it's hella queer. I never say the phrase hella except in that sentence, or that phrase. It's not a word I use, but sometimes it just fits, you know? Anyway, until next time, tatty buys now.